It's been a few years now since I've been diagnosed with bipolar type 1 disorder with psychotic features. And so I've had a decent amount of time to reflect on my experiences and to try and learn from the experiences that I have had. Throughout my time being diagnosed with this condition, throughout my time having this condition, I've noticed that there's a lot of stigma and misconceptions about the illness. And so I wanted to make this video just discussing three things that I wish everybody understood about bipolar disorder to try and combat the stigma and to try to clarify some of the misconceptions that exist about this very serious brain disorder. The first thing that I wish people understood is that there is no cure for bipolar disorder. It is a permanent condition. When you are diagnosed with bipolar, it is something that you will have for the rest of your life. It's not something that just pops in and then goes away. It's not something that will be there some of the time and then not there other parts of the time. It's something that's there permanently. For people who have bipolar, they forever face the prospect of entering a manic episode. They forever face the prospect of entering a depressive episode. They forever face the prospect of not having a stabilized mood, all of which can severely hamper our productivity and interfere with our daily lives in extremely negative ways. Now, I recognize that bipolar disorder is permanent. I've come to accept that fact. It's something I've had to come to terms with. It wasn't easy to come to terms with. I would really like to believe that curing bipolar disorder was as simple as, changing your diet or going to the gym every day. And I have had people on this channel suggest such things in the comments that, maybe you need more of this vitamin. And unfortunately, bipolar disorder, as a severe brain disorder, it has nothing to do with the vitamin deficiency or lack of exercise at the gym. It's largely genetic, and it's partially environmental, but it's largely genetic. If you have relatives who've had bipolar, your chances of having bipolar are exponentially increased relative to people who don't have that family background of family members with bipolar disorder. And I've often wondered who in my family has had the condition, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly who because I don't even really have much familiarity with many of my ancestors. And so I've just kind of had to come to terms with the fact that this is something I have. It's something that it doesn't have to define me, but it is something that I'm going to have to live with. And that brings me into the next thing I wish people understood, and that is that bipolar disorder is extremely rare. I often hear people say, this one's so bipolar, or everyone's got a little bit of bipolar in them. And with the latter statement, nothing could be so antithetical to the truth as that not everybody has a little bit of bipolar. Not everybody has a little bit of cancer. It's really no different. And I think it becomes a really negative thing for people who do have the condition because saying statements like that, it undermines the severity of the disorder and it makes it seem as if it's not as serious a condition as it actually is. And for many people, they're coming from the perspective of someone who wants to help those of us who have the condition. So they're saying it in a way that's positive in their minds. They're saying, other people have this condition and they still obtain success. You're not the only one. You're not alone. That's key. None of us want to be alone in our battles, in our endeavors and struggles. Whatever obstacles we face, we don't want to be the only ones facing those obstacles. It always feels good to know that there are other people who have overcome the same battles that we're facing. But for the people who say that, everybody has a little bit of bipolar, and their attempt to lessen in intensity our feelings of the condition, make it seem like it's not as serious as it is, it's very hurtful. At least that I can't speak for everyone who has bipolar disorder, but it's very hurtful to me when someone tries to downplay the severity of my condition. And that brings me into the third and final thing that I wish people understood. And that is bipolar disorder has an incredibly high suicide rate. 20% of people who have bipolar disorder will successfully commit suicide at some point in their lives. That is both a tragic and terrifying statistic. It certainly is to me, as someone who's had a history of suicidal ideation, suicidal thoughts, as someone who's attempted suicide, who's had cries for help, who's been hospitalized for suicidal thoughts. It scares me to know that I could very well be part of that 20% statistic if I'm not healthy, if my mood is not stabilized, if I go into a manic episode that's very severe, if I go into a depressive episode that's very severe. I have so many triggers that I have to monitor. I have so many symptoms that I have to keep aware of and mentally document in order to make sure that they don't get intense to the point to where I get in that position to where I'm feeling suicidal. And I just want to go back to, these people who say everyone has a little bit of bipolar and they downplay the severity of it. Think of that 20% statistic the next time before you make a remark like that. The last thing that someone with bipolar wants to hear is that their condition isn't serious. It's incredibly serious. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And I wish there was a cure. I wish I didn't have to live with this condition my entire life. But I do. I hit the genetic lottery in a negative way, and I have this rare condition. And I have to pay close attention to my symptoms and monitor my triggers because of that high suicide rate. So these are three things that I wish everybody understood about bipolar disorder. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Tyler Adolfo. Please like, comment, and subscribe.